what happens in an Olympic regatta is the regatta moves on every day. And people improve. It's not like how you are in the heat. You have to be better than you are in your heat in the final. You have to. And by going through the repechage like Canada did, you actually have an opportunity to improve, do something different. Go, heat wasn't that good. How can we do that better? You've got a training day in between. Then you do the repechage, implement it. Then you have another day of training or to recover still. So you're not, we all train super hard. Like you can race several times a day and you'll be fine. Like having a race in your legs is, I think that's nothing.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to Last Stroke Counts. Today's guest is a returning one, the one and only Jack Beaumont. Please welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be back and great to be in your studio.
Yeah, I know this is it's a long time coming. We've filmed a few here now, but that's really fun. Thanks for coming down. It definitely makes the whole process a little bit easier than having to set up at Leander every time. As nice as that place is.
Yeah, I'd say like driving into this retail park in Abingdon does feel, it's much nicer than the library at Leander anyway, right?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like we're cheating everyone and being like, hey, just, we're using the club again. No, it's good. I can't believe there's been 58 episodes since we've had you on the show.
58, and they've done really well. I keep hearing, bumping into people, we recorded this a year ago or so, our one, and bumping into people who still have listened to it recently, or people coming on YouTube or whatever to find it. I think you're definitely smashing it with that.
That's There was some crazy jump, like Lola's episode went wild after the third one. Yeah. People are finding it. We've got like an extra 1,000 plays on YouTube just on that alone. So that's now our second best video on YouTube.
I saw that she was, her story, which is so emotive about the note that she'd written in her diary, and I saw that it was being shared by like massive meme pages on Instagram and stuff.
It was like Lad Bible.
Lad Bible. Archbishop of Canterbury or whatever. All this. Hundreds of thousands of people engaging with it. That's so cool. Rowing never gets coverage like that. So well done, Lola.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. Also, another famous star, Henry Fieldman, got a bit of recognition on that Bible for being the first athlete to win the Olympic medal in both the men's and the women's category.
I knew this was going to happen. I hope you keep this bit. But I knew this was going to happen. As soon as there was this thing about him winning a medal in both, I knew there was going to be a lot of comments saying, angry face, the world's gone woke, thinking that.
But they did it on purpose because the way they led this, they knew they were going for the reaction.
It's so good. It's so good that people. I love the reaction. I love it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah,
hundreds and thousands of people were just getting really angry about.
He's just sat there, hopefully laughing. Yeah. I just sent him the link to that, and I was like, "Mate, you're famous now. Like, enjoy this comment section. It's so good." But yeah, so we brought you in today because, as I understand, you were recently in Paris watching the Olympics. But before we get on to that,
I'm commentating.
And some commentating.
Yeah, I was commentating on. I was commentating before. I commentated actually from London on just in a booth in London for TalkSport Radio, and then went out to the finals.
So you're getting quite to grips with the commentary world. Obviously, we saw you were commentating with us at the Henley Royal Regatta, but you were also racing. I just wanted to talk a little about your crew for this year. How did that come about?
Yeah, so the racing was brilliant. It's always so good to race at Henley. I love it. I've done it. This was, I think, my 14th regatta racing. 15 if you include one where I didn't qualify in 2009, so I don't think we can include that. It came about, I was just going out in my single every now and then, and Will Satch was erging quite a lot at the club at Leander. We kept bumping into each other, and he said he was going to try and get hold of a boat, and if he gets it, we should try and paddle alongside each other a bit. So we did, and we were having loads of fun. And I said, why don't we try and race in a pair at Henley? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And every time I mentioned let's get a pair out, he kind of kicked the can down the road, and I think he was a bit worried about racing in a pair because he used to be so good at it. I'm not that worried about losing in a quad because I've lost in quads loads of times anyway. Yeah. Well, not at Henley, but I'm past it and I'm happy with that. So after a while, I said, why? Seb Devereaux didn't get picked to go to the qualifying regatta in Lucerne. And I spoke to him and said that he asked if I'd like to do something for Henley. I said, well, I've already agreed I'll do something with Will. Why don't we try and get in a 4 or a quad or something? And then we were trying to find anyone who will come with us and getting turned down by lots of people. But then someone said, why don't you ask Sam Mayer?
The Quadzilla.
Yeah, with the Quadzilla, quads for quads. And we asked him, and he was, honestly, I've never had such a keen response to anything. So then the next stage was, can we find a boat? Because Leander had already rented out all their spare boats to other clubs for the regatta. We were asking everyone. We didn't really have the budget to pay to rent a boat. So we asked Morris at British Rowing, Morris Hayes, who's in charge of equipment. We basically said, Morris, if you can help us get a boat, we'll let you be our coach. And we had no idea how awesome it was all going to be. So he lent us this stamp fleet that they use for the juniors heat racing and stuff. And it was a great boat. Big Red, we called it. And yeah, we went out rowing most mornings really early before work and some evenings for the couple of weeks in Henley. Did the qualifying races. Funny story there is actually that we did the qualifying. We thought it was an all right row, but it was quite a strong headwind, so we didn't really know. Went in and sat in the changing rooms, a bit kind of ambivalent about it because we didn't really know how it was. And Morris came in and sat us down and said, he read out some times that he thought that the other crews had done. And then he read out ours, which was 23 seconds off the pace of the winner, he'd said. And we thought, well, we probably haven't qualified. That's a shame, but we had loads of fun, so we don't really care. Let's go and get a drink. And then as we had a shower, got changed, went out, and bumped into Will Fletcher. He was like, well, you've done it again. I said, what do you mean? He goes, no, you qualified. And a few of the other people who had done independent timing, turns out that we'd actually won the qualifying. And Morris had read the wrong number on his storm watch. But yeah, we had a great time racing the regatta. It was terrible weather, just horribly rainy, but the most fun to line up again and row around with all the other crews and just be part of it. I've never had the experience of rowing through a crew in enclosures before. We did it twice. And, I was joking to everyone that the stewards had paid us to make some crowd pleasing races. But really, we had the power and technique and sort of race heads for a great start and a great finish. We didn't really have a great fitness for the middle part of the race. So all we really had in our back pocket was we can really, really sprint. We know the course really well. I'm quite keen, quite happy at steering it really tight to the booms and any of that, pushing those warnings from the umpires a little bit. But yeah, honestly, the most fun. And to make it through Saturday was way more than we ever thought we'd do.
I know, it's crazy. Considering you say that you guys have barely had any fitness, you would be deadly with a proper fitness preparation. We saw so many close races that you've had. There was one time we were walking to the course and you mentioned terrible weather. We were camping near Temple Island, so it was pretty wet. And then one day we walked down to the course and we just catched the back end of your race against, I think, the German lightweights.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys really needed a point, so we just stood there on the bank. And
is that the senior German lightweight?
Yeah, they're probably in Canada right now for the World Championships. Yeah, so I wouldn't be feeling that confident going to the World Championships having lost to us. But however, we were probably 30 kilos a man, at least more, given our extra, because we probably had an extra, on average, 10 kilos per person than we used to have.
Than race weight.
And pretty far off peak ergo scores, I think, too.
But
good. You know what? It was great. It was just the most fun. And although we weren't in the best shape, we were really motivated. The days we did train, we were really focused to row as well as we can. And we really took the racing seriously. So the moment it was Henley week, it was hey, we're on it. We've got to show this event proper respect and all the people we're against,
Yeah, I mean, the racing schedule had to be moved around with the commentary as well because of your slots and the fact that you actually made it so much further into the weekend than you thought you would have.
Well, that was actually quite a funny thing. I asked the regatta if they could try and put my race at a different time to when I'm commentating. And they literally put it so that the first race I would have been commentating was my own race. It's well, they're busy organising lots of things, so I guess.
Yeah.
It's good though. It's good what you're saying. I think it doesn't matter what level you're rowing at. It's about doing your best at that level. So sort of post rowing career, as you jump on the yoga stuff, you're okay, I'm not going for a PB, but what if I could still get this score? And what if I could still achieve this? Or what if I could still? So I think and it's the same on the way up as well. If you, like you said, if you take that event seriously and you want to do your best at it, it doesn't really matter what event it is. Whatever level it is, it's about achieving that level.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think this year I started getting back on the erg for a bit, and I was pulling on a half hour at rate 20 when my PB was about 140 on a half hour at rate 20. I was pulling around like 140, high 144, and absolutely killing myself to do it. I did a 2K ergo, no, a 5K ergo. I did 16:39 or something like that, which I think is pretty good. But my PB is 15:43, so it's quite quite far off. And the 2K, I did like a 2K rate 28 earlier in the year and did, I think 6:16 or something. It was like, okay, but it's different goalposts, and it hurts just as much, and that's quite a funny thing. Yeah. So I think I'm more keen on the actual outdoor rowing than the indoor rowing now, because you don't actually, the speed's so subjective or variable anyway. The ergo is just so straight. I need to still get my head around doing some pieces on the ergo and accepting it's just going to be slower.
Yeah, I mean, there's no cheating, whatever that monitor is showing you, is there?
Yeah, just get a plastic bag over the over the fan.
Get someone to stand next to it. Yeah.
We should try that. How did you find commentating at Henley? Was that your first time doing it?
Yeah, it was. I'd never commentated at Henley before. I'd been asked the year before, but I don't remember why I couldn't commit to it. And it was really fun. I really loved it. It's quite difficult because.
Who were you with?
I was with Matt Britton for one, which was great, and I was with Jess Eddy for one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was fantastic doing it, and you get a great view, and it was a real privilege to be asked, because Henley Regatta has been a huge part of my life since I was a kid, and like I said, 14 times racing it, won it 9 times, and it's cool to be involved in different ways. Commentating, it was just hard to try and remember that. Sort of there's so many different standards of crews, so you might be watching the winner of a race of a competition racing against the person that just scraped to qualify, and trying to sort of be fair to both at the same time. I found I needed to just think about how do I do this best, and how do I be really positive and make it seem fun, because I think for me, I want rowing to sound really fun and like something that other people would like to do that aren't rowers. The other thing was just trying to remember to talk about things in a way that non-rowers would understand, because I think it's really easy as a rower to even just use words that are so normal to us, that someone that's not a rower just wouldn't have a clue what it is. Yeah. And trying my best to sort of take the vocabulary to non-rowing audience. That was quite. How about you? What did you think?
Yeah, same thing. It's a real balance though, isn't it? Because you also you want it to be simple enough, especially something like Henley. You're thinking there's definitely parents watching this. They don't know anything about rowing. Like you said, they might have only just qualified. This could definitely be like they might only have one round. So you want to make sure that like you can do that, but you don't want to also spend 5 minutes explaining like what a catch or a feather and a square. So and it's all like live and it's running fast in your head. But it was awesome. I think we weren't racing, right? So we were pretty much there for the week with not a lot else to do. So we had a lot of time to prep.
Yeah,
which is really good. Both for like our races and other people, like trying to get that extra gossip and stuff in, which was really good.
Call everyone in the phone book, trying to get some goss.
Just get up in the morning, just message everyone, be like, okay, yes, right, let me message Dougie. Okay, shit, late, let me message Dave Curry.
Oh, that's really cool.
Because we fixed everyone's eggs, right? So we had that kind of, that was, we were like, right, this is what we can bring to the team, which was really good. And just really cool to see kind of behind the curtain a little bit, and like see how it's run and organized, and like watching some of the stewards come in, like they've just been like timing in a boat in the hitting rain for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not, they work, there's a lot of people that do a lot of stuff there, a lot of boring jobs that need to get done.
Yeah. Well, there definitely are. And, I was speaking to a bunch of different stewards during the week and understanding, they pay their own way through it all as well. Yeah. It's not like they're getting any, like, there's no free lunch for them doing this. It's pretty hard. A pretty hard job, I think.
Yeah, in general, commentary was super fun. It was a bit nerve-wracking, but like I found it because Tom and I had like alternating day spots, so I was actually like more nervous for his races than I was for mine, because like I wasn't doing the prep for what he was about to say.
Okay.
So like that wasn't like all in my head. Like the experience was pretty epic. I mean, the first thing that I think I said with Camilla, I just stuttered.
Yeah.
When I tried to introduce myself, and in general, So I watched Cam Nicol go right before me in like a pretty nice race between Brooks and Neerhouse. So that was like a really good example to follow. So I thought I did okay. And then you had a spot right after me with Matt Britton. And then I was like, he knows what he's talking about, Jack. So you had like an incredible like athlete's perspective to like, so I think one of your first races might be like a single scull or something like that. And like,
I think it was a women's single scull race.
Yeah. So there was like, so what would you be thinking right now? Well, how can I still feel the wash? Can I see the blades in the corner of my eye? All those sorts of things. So it's like, it was just a privilege to be able to like both work with and like learn from all those like incredible people around. It was a pretty nice team.
That was good. What I try and do, because I do a lot of public speaking to rowing as well, and I do things for a huge spectrum of audiences. So it might be voluntary for schools or for rowing clubs, or paid for big companies, and trying to storytell in a way that people can imagine being in the position is, I think, quite a useful way of doing it. It's not always easy, but I try and I try to do that in that commentary, kind of bring it to life. And I was talking on the radio for some of the Olympic coverage in the earlier rounds. So it was the Monday and Tuesday of the regatta. So it was some semi-finals and reps pretty much. So people were fighting for their Olympics finals, right? And radio is even more different because no one can see it. So you have to kind of try and describe these things in a different way. And that was also really, really interesting. So I was doing that for TalkSport Radio from London as well. So from a booth. So we were just watching what you might have been watching on the TV, just commentating on it. And that was interesting. But the most interesting thing about that was it was not just covering rowing. They were jumping from sport to sport. Kind of like when you listen to a Radio 5 Live and they'll go, oh, and there was a goal at Old Trafford, and they jump over that. Yeah. Oh, there's point being scored. A try's just been scored in the rugby sevens. They'll jump over to that. And it became a point where I ended up having to commentate on tennis. Now, I don't know anything about tennis. I honestly know, I know like the basic rules. I don't know any of the nuances, any of the tactics, any of this. And I'm starting to be asked like, oh, now what might so-and-so be feeling? I was like, well, there were a few things I could comment on because it looked really hot. So their clothes were like stuck to them, or the body language looked a bit difficult. But one of the player who I was starting to say, look, they look a bit down in the dumps. I'm a bit concerned about how the next set might go for them. They won. So it shows how much I know.
Commentator's curse, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, can we go back to some more rowing now, please? That's pretty good.
Yeah, when we talking about trying to be positive and stuff as well, when I mentioned we were doing commentating, I think it was Ted Bainbridge who said, I'm sure he won't mind me saying it, he was like, oh, you're not going to cracknell it, are you? And I was like, I'm going to try and be a little bit more positive.
I don't know what he's doing in the boat.
I was listening to him on Discovery. He just, it's just really blunt, isn't it? It's not untruthful.
I like some of the things he says are great.
Yeah,
like, he does give some good athlete perspectives from his point of view.
Yeah.
He gives some funny things like I think he calls it like the teeth scale of how hard someone's hurting, like the more teeth they can see. I don't like it when he says that basically like this next 500s will say whether the last 4 years has been a waste of time or not, or this kind of thing. Because I think there's more. Okay, of course the aim while you're there is to win. Everyone knows that. It's not a waste of time if you don't. Yeah. It's not, if he had, okay, they won in Athens by what, like the length of this cup. Yeah. If they hadn't won, would the last 4 years have been a complete waste of time? I don't think so, right? And I think that maybe isn't such a good comment. But otherwise, he's pretty colourful and interesting. And you know what? I watched back the women's quads race because I was there watching all these races live, so I didn't hear any of the commentary. But when he commentated on that, when they crossed the line, having won, he was roaring. He was a proper fan, and I like that passion. I like that passion a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I like it when you can see that the commentators are fans of it as well. Yeah, they're not just some random guy commentating on tennis.
It's biased. It's absolutely biased. But I'm also a bit biased. So I'll just say, hey, I'm biased, and then within this podcast, I'm going to be biased towards the British team because they're my boys and girls.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think it's so important as a commentator to portray the emotion to the listeners, to the viewers, because they're just going to be vibing off of your energy. So if there's a men's 8 final and GB are just about, gaining an edge on the Netherlands. And if you say, there's a move, okay, right, that's right. Like no one's going to be as passionate as if you become that fruity, colourful James Cracknell.
Which is
the positive nuance.
Authentic. Like he's being him.
Yeah.
And that sounds better. It might be a bit more negative or some things might be better or worse than other people, but like it would sound worse if he tried to be what he isn't.
And also most British viewers that are not rowers as well will love to hear from him because he's someone they know. He's won Olympic gold medals and they remember that. And especially for a slightly older audience that will remember that really well, they're like, hey, this is amazing insights to hear from a double Olympic champion.
Yeah. So how did you come about being involved with the coverage for Paris? And you actually went over there to watch some racing in person as well?
Yeah. Well, in terms of the radio coverage, TalkSport approached British Rowing and asked if there's anyone that they thought might be good for it. And they asked me if I'd do it. And I said, well, I'd love to. At the weekend before, I'm at a wedding, so I can't do the weekend. And for the finals, I'm going out to go and watch, so I can't do that. So there are 2 days I can do. Would love to get involved if it works. And it was really cool. It was fun to go. And it's in the building like right next to the Shard where TalkSport Radio is, and like the same as like the Times and a bunch of other. It's like called News HQ, massive building. Yeah, it was really awesome. And I was working with some really great people who normally, and this radio station is typically about football.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all they do. They'd never done the Olympics until that week. It was the first time they were going to do it. And they were really professional, really slick. I was really impressed how they just had different commentators and different, or reporters in different venues and nipping between the two and, or not the two, between maybe 5 or 6 sports at once. They might have, they're commentating on Tom Daley at the same time as commentating on the rowing and horse riding and hockey at the same time. It was pretty cool. And then, I went out to Paris because I wanted to go to watch the Olympics. Yeah. That was it. And so I bought loads of tickets. They were really expensive. In fact, they were too expensive, I think. And, but obviously not prohibitively expensive because it was full, but it was really awesome. The venue was great. The rowers, all the racing, there wasn't a single event where you thought, hey, that wasn't either amazing racing or outstanding crews. It was really cool.
Good weather as well.
And the weather was great. Yeah. So I think it might have been a bit bad before I arrived, but I brought the weather with me. And, the first couple of mornings there was thunderstorms, but there were thunderstorms like 6, 7 a.m., but then it cleared up and were just beautiful days. In fact, savagely hot if you were sat in these stands that didn't have any roofs on them, but great. And also the fairest conditions for rowing the Olympics I've seen since probably Beijing. Yeah. Like London, you were having to redraw lanes. Rio and Tokyo both had to delay racing to different days because of wind. This was like glass a lot of the time. Like really, I was thinking that it's sort of rower's wet dream kind of weather.
Yeah, no, definitely. That was really good to see. Fair racing is what you want.
Yeah, I think so. I think you want to turn up and know that it's all you and there's nothing extraneous going on. Although I used to prefer it when you turned up and there was a little bit of a wind because it hurt slightly less. I always found when it was a bit windy, there was some element of like the physical edge of it got taken off it. Yeah. If it's completely flat, oh my goodness, you really hurt yourself, didn't you? You really hurt yourself anyway, right? You try as hard as you can, but I don't know, when it was really flat, you knew about it even more.
Yeah, the worse the conditions get, the more difficult it is to apply power.
Yeah.
So there's a scale. It's a certain point when it's flat climbing, it's going to be like an egg.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
We didn't see any crews falling this year, hopefully.
Thank God.
I think so. No, because of the conditions. Obviously, in Rio and in Tokyo, we had some.
We had a near miss though. There was in a semi-final or rep or something of the lightweight women's double. There was a Chinese double about 150 meters in, caught a boat stopper where the blade actually span round. Like it was like the spoon was inside the boat, the handle was out by the water, and that could have been a capsize.
Interesting. No, but we've obviously spoken to loads of people about what we wanted to see different at the Paris Olympics compared to Tokyo, and like conditions was like a massive thing, like a proper rowing venue. So it's great to see that it panned out properly and all right. So did you kind of like arrive in Paris like halfway through the regatta? Did you?
Yeah, I arrived the night before the final started.
Oh,
so the night before the men's and women's quarterfinals.
What do you think was in general, like what do you think was like the thoughts and opinions going in? Like obviously people were pretty confident we've had some good results. Do you think the overall result was like better or worse than they were hoping for?
For GB?
Yeah.
I think.
Did they announce a number? They don't know. They only have one, but don't.
Yeah, they'll have a number they have to submit to UK Sport, and if they're smart, it'll have been a conservative one because you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So I'd imagine they'd have said to UK Sport, "We're going to get 4 to 6 medals, or something like that, or 3 to 5 medals." Yeah. So they can turn up, coming back, saying, "Hey, we've absolutely nailed our target." I think it would probably look like that. Okay, after the last few years, they've won so many gold medals at the World Championships, so many World Cup races, and lots of races by big margins. For example, the men's 4 over the last few years has absolutely smashed it. It doesn't happen like that at the Olympics, not very often anyway. And so I think there will have probably been hopes for more, probably to get a similar medal tally to what the Netherlands actually got with 4 gold medals, and we got 3.
It's only the swing from the women's 4 though, wasn't it?
Exactly, all these things, like exactly that. And you know, I'm sure they'd have. Well, of course, they would have loved and probably maybe expected the women's 4 to win gold. Okay, and I put money on the women's 4 to win gold, so I expected it. But then, to be fair, the Netherlands were the world champions, and we did win a bronze in that last year. So actually, silver's great.
Yeah.
You know, the men's pair as well. You know, that maybe could have been gold, but also these things, the women's quad could have been silver. There's this. So I'm sure every boat went there with good confidence. Maybe there'll be some that will be disappointed, but I don't think there can be any that's got a medal that should be feeling disappointed.
Definitely, and also like in terms of the team feeling in general, like did you find that it was a bit different to when you went to Tokyo a few years ago?
Well, it was totally different because we were in coronavirus times. So when we were at the Olympics, I just didn't really talk to anyone that wasn't in the quad, pretty much. And if I did, I kept a distance. We just did our thing. Whereas this felt like much more of a proper Olympics. They had time and they weren't worried about getting sick. So I'm sure they were in the normal way you're worried about getting sick, but they could kind of feel like more of a team. I also think in the last few years, generally across the team, they've just kept the boats together more. For my last sort of 3 years probably in the British rowing team, or the years before the pandemic, between Rio and the pandemic, they couldn't decide who they wanted in what boat.
The musical chairs.
It was musical chairs, and it was so disruptive. I think now they will say the athletes have had more time in the training program, blah blah blah. This is why. No, I don't believe that's why the team didn't form in Tokyo. I think the team didn't form in Tokyo because the team had so much disruption over those years. Constantly seat racing, constantly making everyone feel like they're not good enough, to be honest. And everyone felt unsettled. No one really trusted each other because we were constantly pitted against each other. And it was literally from like October 2018, it felt like every 3 weeks there was some sort of test that was like, you don't know whether that's the test that's going to make the difference. And so it didn't feel like we were a team. It felt like we were a bunch of individuals against each other. Actually, after the pandemic, and we came back into Tokyo, we sort of did just get into boats and kind of stay in them. But by then, I think there was a lot of damage done there, and a lot of, I wouldn't say bad feeling between boats, but not as much as a team as I think there's been now. Yeah. Whereas this last few years, you've seen there's been kind of core groups of people who have stayed together. The 8 has give or take been the same. Men's 8, sorry. The men's 4 has had a core group of people. The pair has been the same. Lightweight women's doubles been the same. The women's quad was, I think, been pretty similar. Yeah. And the women's 8's changed around quite a lot. The women's 4, 2 of them have been constant all this time. I think that makes a big difference. They've not done final trials in this year, which I think is a good thing. I don't think they should be doing final trials personally, because why? Well, firstly, you're testing in a single to see who should be in a quad, or you're testing in a pair to see who should be in an 8. Okay, I do think you should be doing that through the year, but is a singles regatta really? You have to rank people, yes, but is that really going to be indicative of who's going to be the best in the double or the best in the quad? You need to get the best 4 people together, or the best 2 people together that work. And I don't mean the top 4 people. I mean the 4 people that are going to work well together. And until they get that right, I can't see us winning the quad.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about Tokyo and then and to here, and in terms of like how COVID affected it. We were talking to someone yesterday about some involvement in the Aussie team and sort of discussing Australia not doing very well in rowing this time.
You hate to see it, don't you?
Even though they did, even though they did well in Tokyo, and his opinion was sort of he felt that they sort of did a lot better in Tokyo because their preparation was really undisrupted at all. And then in comparison, because that was the thing about COVID, it wasn't like everyone had the same restrictions. It was all different everywhere.
At different times.
And in his opinion, like they were still able to do their training camps and all that stuff. They didn't race anyone else that season, but they did internal races and all that kind of stuff. And that was kind of interesting to see how, like, there's all sorts of different things that play, and it's not an even, when something like that happens, it's not an even playing field.
No.
I also agree, like, from the physiological standpoint, what you were saying about, like, probably not having to do final trials in the Olympic year. Like, how many times can you realistically peak throughout the year with your fitness and get the most amount of speed and still be able to obviously deliver in the Olympic final? Because even someone I was just looking at some boats and saying, like, okay, well, they weren't really featuring at World Championships last year or the year before, but then are they just training to peak once every 4 years? How much of a different toll does that take on the body?
I do think that a little bit.
You look at America.
Yeah.
They only come once every 4 years.
I think, now I'm not an expert, I'm not a physiologist, I'm not a scientist, but anecdotally, I think a lot of the teams really do ramp up their training over 4 years. And I think the British rowing go, hey, here's our level straight away. And we saw like almost clean sweeps in the first World Championships in 2022.
Yeah.
When I was deciding whether I was carrying on or not, definitely the vibe of British rowing was, hey, you need to come back to training soon if you're going to come back, because we're already on year 2 of an Olympiad because of the delayed Olympics. Whereas in my mind was, no, we're in year 1 of 3 rather than year 2 of 4.
Yeah.
And I thought we should be slowly building up still. And I wonder whether more of the rest of the world actually decided to do the other option and sort of still let their people take time to come in and build up. I think that might have been the case. And I
used to hear a lot of stories about, like, the Australian Awesome Foursome having a year off after every Olympics.
Yeah.
Gin and Tompkins, and would like literally take a year away, go and do other stuff, then come back to it. And I think, like, the standard is so insane now.
Yeah.
Are you potentially doing yourself a disservice by trying to come up every single year?
Trying to be too good for too long. Yeah. I think it's difficult because your funding kind of comes from that stuff. And as an athlete, your funding is pretty much how you do at the World Championships that year. And if you come 4th compared to if you come 3rd, it's like £7,000 a year difference, right? There's and that's a quarter of your money gone. Yeah. If you've gone for a medal to not. If I was a head coach, what I would probably try in the first year, at very least until Christmas, the guys would be having weekends off.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be training 5 days a week, I think, because let them have fun, let them enjoy it. I don't think you'd lose that much from having, in fact, maybe there'd be something, who knows? I'll try it, and if it doesn't work, it'd be me that loses my jobs.
It's wild. It's wild though. We remember the one year when I was in the team, it was coming up to Easter. It might have been Easter weekend. I can't remember. It was around that sort of time, and probably a bit earlier because Easter wings normally final trials, right? Anyway, we'd had a good block. Jürgen sat us all down and was like, right, you can have Saturday off as well. You're going to have a weekend off. And, that doesn't sound like a lot to other people, but like I go up in the crew and, like, after this meeting, like, people are freaking out. They're like booking holidays. Like,
I remember that. We got a weekend off. We got 2 whole days off.
Yeah, Mo and Noddy got the Eurostar. Yeah, like literally, it was like people had just been given 3 weeks off. And that's the difference. Like when you train that hard,
I
weekend can be.
I remember a few times like booking little weekenders with those sorts of
holiday, 48-hour holiday.
But it felt pretty much like 3 weeks as well when you're in it. Like every minute is so valuable.
Yeah,
that's okay. So that's quite interesting. Like talking about, like, for example, what made the team better in Paris.
But also, and it's totally from the outside, by the way. I'm not inside any of it. Just what it seemed like from. I've still taught some of the guys, and it did seem like there was just a better team, like team atmosphere between boats. So I think within boats, like what we had in Tokyo, worked for our but it didn't seem like. I'm not sure everyone wanted each other's crews to also do well. I think they wanted to do their own ones to do well. Whereas here,
just builds and builds and.
Yeah, well, I mean, it definitely pays to have, like, your entire squad be a tight-knit group, but also, like, what's going to motivate you to do better at the next games than 6 4th places, right? What's going to push you to train harder and sort of, like, come together as a group?
Yeah, that's what always reminds me of, we did shit. Like, 6th, 4th places.
Yeah.
And they were, 5 of them were, like, ridiculous.
Yeah, I spoke about this on the last one for ages. Yeah. I basically said, hey, the world was really mean to our team after that, and actually the team was really strong. They just didn't quite get some races on the right side, and that's sport. And you watch it in like swimming and stuff. I was talking, in fact, the other day to one of the coaches who was a swimming coach at the Olympics, and he basically said a lot of these races, if you had to run them 6 times, you get 6 different winners. Yeah. You know, they're so tight, and it's a snapshot of that 6 minutes. It's exactly that. And if you were to run the race 6 minutes later, maybe you get a different result. It's just it actually seems so irrational when you think that we put so much of our lives and so much resource and so much energy and self-worth into this snapshot of 6 minutes, where you can't control what the other 5 crews do as well. They might just be better. And that's sport. But then that's why it's important that we're not just so linked to the outcome. Of course, that's what people are looking at. They want medals. They want to see how people do, and they want medal tables. But as the athlete, you need to be able to walk away and go, hey, if I come first, if I come 6th, if I come 16th, I really enjoyed doing this sport. I really enjoyed the experience. I really enjoyed racing. I really enjoyed the team and all of that, because the result is out of your control in some ways. You can do your best race and go as fast as you can, but you can't. It's never bolted on.
I also think there's at times as well that sort of outside opinion of it's almost like, oh, they've done shit. Like, why couldn't they beat everyone else? Like, everyone else is trying really, really hard.
Everyone's training as hard as they can.
Yeah. You're not just racing kids.
Every coach and athlete is trying to get their little edge everywhere. Yeah. I tweeted something the other day during the Olympics, because after the men's fours race, there was a bunch of people tweeting like loads of stuff. Oh, they should have gone off harder. Should have done this. I just tweeted saying, like, remember, guys, if it was that easy to win an Olympic medal, you'd all have one. It's like it's really hard. And they're the ones these athletes are the guys that put themselves out there, and they are trying their hardest. Yes, of course, that you don't want to be a length down early on in a race. Of course, they didn't think, oh, let's try and be down. Like, they were trying their hardest.
It's that they go, I wouldn't be a length down. Yeah. Really?
Anyway, I understand it. It's nice that people care, and it's cool to have people who have so much passion about it. I was out running yesterday morning with Mo Speedy and Peter Lambert, who are both in our team, and we both all live in the same town in Maidenhead, and we often go for a run, and we end up chatting a lot about what's going on in the rowing team. And we're kind of like armchair pundits now as well. Yeah. And we just need to remember that, like, they're all doing as good a job as they can, like we were when we were doing it. Yeah.
I think, definitely. It's so easy to criticize until you're actually in it, and then you just realize how much different all of that is. So the best thing that we can do from this island is just to give them all the support, because the last thing you want to do to someone who is trying their hardest and dedicating all of their time is just to kick the dog.
Yeah, exactly. And the final thing I guess I'll say on that before we talk about the individual races is I think, now I wasn't doing it years and years ago, but I do think over the last 15 years the sport's got harder. I do think there are more, not harder. Like it's always been as hard as you can to just a 2K race, and there's always been good competition. But I think there are more full-time teams. Mm-hmm. It's more professional across the world, and I think that you're not going to have so much dominance over a long, sustained period of time. Like the Netherlands, they did so fantastically this time, and they have been rowing so well over the last years. But this is the first Olympics where they won more than one gold medal in rowing. Like they've never done that before.
Wow!
So it's like.
We checked in London; they only got bronze.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's not like they've. I think Great Britain has had a really successful time. Like in Beijing, London, Rio were golden years, but you can't always be winning every race. And now, it's on its way back up, which is fantastic. But I think as a fan, of course you want to keep seeing them win, and if you're used to it, you want it to stay. But everyone else is trying to do that too, and Netherlands have had 4 times the Olympic gold medals they've ever had in one regatta before. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's definitely something that they're doing is very disruptive to the sport, and I don't mean disruptive in a negative way.
Yeah,
I think
they're a disruptor.
Exactly. They have like a slightly different way of rowing, different way of like applying power in training. For example, they don't use any concept 2s in the entire training center. They only use RP3s, so that's like an interesting fact.
That's interesting. We were only allowed on RP3s if we were injured when I was in the team.
Unless you're Alan Campbell.
Well, that was because of an injury, though.
Well,
Injury.
No, I'm joking.
how he had 1 foot longer than the other, one leg longer than the other or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So in general, in terms of the event, the Netherlands have topped the medal table with 8 medals total, 4 golds, 3 silvers, 1 bronze. GB came very close second with 8 medals total, 3 golds, 2 silvers, 3 bronzes, although that could have been different with the women's 4 race, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah. But then with that, again,
it could be different
with the quad. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Same thing. And then third, Romania, which they always really excel at the Olympics. I guess they're one of those teams that just peak once every 4 years. They've got 2 gold medals, 3 silvers, and that has 5 medals total. Interestingly, New Zealand fourth with 1 gold, 2 silvers, 1 bronze, and then Germany, Ireland, and USA tied for 5th with 1 gold and 1 bronze.
Yeah.
And, Germany and Australia are quite typically a very strong rowing nation. So we talking about like you can't win every Olympics, you can't always like expect the best performances and everything. And like even for those countries, you see them, they're not necessarily in the top 3 of the medal table. So what GB has done is like really even more impressive when you compare it to the giants of rowing.
Yeah,
typically assume.
I think so, and you have to be looking at what's next, right? You can't just go, "Oh, we've always done it this way," because when you do that, that's where you start coming unstuck. And I think I'm not inside any of those programs in Australia or in Germany, but like I just wonder whether they've always gone, "Oh, this worked in the past. Let's keep doing it."
Yeah, it's an age-old thing, isn't it? When it's very difficult to change things when you're winning. Why would you? No one wants to. The system doesn't want to. Oh my God, don't risk anything. Like you say, Dutch maybe haven't had some great Olympics. Cool, let's mix it up. Let's try some new stuff. And potentially for GB in this last 3 years, right, that didn't go quite well. Let's look back on that. Let's study it, see what went wrong, make some changes.
Yeah.
And maybe you have a little bit more ability to make some more wild changes if you're not risking the gold. You've got the gold. Oh my God, we can't lose the gold. It's like, no, you haven't. Time to make some changes.
It'll be interesting to see what Netherlands do now, obviously, because right now they're the big dogs in rowing. And I wonder also like how much of their success has got to do with just like sheer numbers, because they just seem to have like people and people and people for like every boat.
I don't know. They don't think that. I was speaking to a Dutch girl at Henley, and she was saying that the elite level is quite small. There's not a lot of people doing it.
Well, I'll tell you, they do have a fluidity between sculling and rowing.
They all
because so for example, the Caroline Florine, she won a silver medal in the 4 in Tokyo, and then she won a gold medal in the single. What's his name? The single sculler.
Van Dorp.
Yeah, Van Dorp. He was in the 8 in Tokyo, got a bronze medal in the single. Half of the quad that was in Tokyo were bronze medalists in the 8 in Rio. And one of them was a bronze medalist in the 8 in Rio and now has won 2 golds in the quad. They switch around a lot more.
Yeah, from what I can't verify this, but from what I was being told was that they spend a lot more time in small boats, and they do a lot more of this. Essentially what you were saying is find the best athletes and then put them in the crew.
And the boat that fits them best. Yeah, I think that's an interesting concept. I've always thought we should do that in British rowing. But in British rowing, when you're signing up for trials, you have to fill in this form, and it says like you're a sculler, a stroke side, or a bow side. I always ticked all 3 because I thought, well, I want to be open for all 3. I wanted to try and put me where they think is best for me to win. I know that I was only ever seen as a sculler, at least as a senior. But I thought like, hey, put me where I'll be best in the team and try it. Like I wish everyone took that. That'd be so good.
When we were coaching at Oxford College, then Tim Foster used to come down and sort of finishing coach for the men's first 8, and they were short of someone one day, and I said, "Oh, Pete can jump in. He can row." And Tim was like, "Oh, which side do you row?" And Pete was like, "Oh, I'm a sculler, so either." No. And Tim just turns to us and goes, "Either means neither."
But it's also probably that.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to have the same skill level on both sides.
I think if you started on sculling, it's easy to switch the sweep to whichever sideline. I mean, you've won plenty of 8 heads.
I've never won the 8 head.
Oh,
about. I'll tell you what I have won. I've won junior trials in a pair, and 1 year I did win the junior Nat schools in the championship double and pair, which was pretty cool. That was a cool.
It's like a golden.
We're one of those Wintex with the quick release riggers. So
nice.
We finished on Saturday after the double, like unclipped the thing, put on the pair riggers, went for a quick loop, and then won the pair the next day.
So were you steering in the double? You had a
no. We just pulled out the rudder and put it back on. Yeah,
that's pretty epic.
Well, maybe we fixed it. Maybe we just fixed the rudder straight. I don't know. We did something, but definitely it was quick release Wintec.
Yeah. Cool. So knowing that Netherlands have topped the medal table, GB coming in close second, we've had 10 crews racing plus the spare pair. The spare pair, I believe, have won their race. And then we had 8 crews racing for the rest of the regatta. So shall we start with the women's pair?
Yeah.
So they came 4th in their heat, and then they came 3rd in their rep, 5th in the semi, and ultimately finished 12th, 6th in a B final. How did you see them and their event? Go ahead.
Look, firstly, that event was won by probably the best crew in the regatta, I think. Actually, I think the Netherlands women's pair was the best crew. They won by miles. They absolutely nailed it. They looked brilliant. I was talking to Roger Blink, who's used to be an athlete in the Dutch team years ago. He was saying that on the sort of percentage times that they are the top boat from Netherlands. If they're the top boat from the country that came top, that's pretty awesome. So that event had a very top level. I think for the British girls, so Rebecca and Chloe, they'll be disappointed because especially when we have so many boats go to the Olympics and only 2 don't win medals, and everyone's in the top 4 other than you, and you come 12th. Of course, it feels like you've not done a good job, but I think also when you're part of a team that does win a silver medal in the 4 and a bronze medal in the 8, you're also not that far off that. It's just maybe the pair's not your boat, but you are in the pair because you haven't made it into either of those. Actually, it won't feel great. And as a fan, you want to see you want to see them all in the A final and fighting for medals. Of course you do, but they've not done themselves a disservice. They've gone for it, and they were probably, well, in fact, they were definitely the reserves for the other boats too. I'm sure they spent a lot of time on the camps in the 4 or the 8, not even the way that rowers train. They're training so close to the edge of their max, or the edge of what they're capable of sustaining, that I think there's a good chance that pair hardly went out on training camp because one of them was always in another boat. Yeah. I think so. I think they turned up and gave it their best, and of course they would have liked to have done better, but I'm proud of them for turning up and giving it their best.
Yeah, well, completely. I mean, with the 8 and the 4, there's only 12 seats, so there's 6 on your side. So, like you said, they're there and thereabouts. It doesn't mean they're like...
Yeah, they're the next people into both those boats. Yeah.
And you're also a part of that success because you're part of that squad that pushed everyone else to be better in order to have to beat you to get into the crew that won the medal.
Yeah. Exactly that. And it's I don't think it's a sign of how our women's pairs rowing. Like, if we had our fastest pair possible, probably would have been up among those medals too. It's just that wasn't where the priority of the athletes were. So I think they did.
Both their first Olympics. Was it? Yeah.
No, it wasn't. No. I'm sure Chloe was in the 8 in Tokyo. Okay. The thing is, I was disappointed because I would have liked them to do better, of course, and they would have liked to have done better. But I think really they gave it their best, and I can't imagine their prep was smooth.
Yeah, it's good insight. Yeah,
the men's squad, where they came 4th overall, 2nd in their heat, and then finished 4th in the final. Yeah, did you get to watch that from London, or did you see that in Paris?
I've watched the heat from home, and I watched the final from Paris. Okay, I was disappointed for the guys because we got together a load of us who have raced in the quad over the last sort of 15 years. And we all sent a video each, and I put them all together, and it's got people from the Beijing Olympics through to Tokyo, and we all just wanted to wish them good luck. And we really want to see British quads winning medals because we've not been that good at that for a long time. We never have been until recently. And they raced their hearts out. They really got themselves in the race, and they were right with the Italians and Poles for the first 1,500 meters of the race. And I think then they couldn't sprint when the other crews really had to lift it at the end. And you sort of saw the other crews, Netherlands, Poland and Italy, who all beat them up at rate 43 with 300 meters to go, while we're at 39.40. And I think the guys would probably agree. So to say this is not horrible, but I think they'd want to be rowing better. I think that the 3 crews that beat them were rowing much more slick, much more together, and in a uniform technique. Our guys, you can't fault how hard they're trying. You can fault the way they're rowing. And to be honest, I think that the coach needs to take a significant amount of responsibility for that, because they're cycling with them every single day. When every 20k row they do, every single session, you surely can't be looking at that and going, hey, this is the finished article. And I think that the coach, of course, the athletes need to be doing it well too, but I think the coach needs to think about how they're going to make that better in future. Because if you watched it, the 3 boats that looked the best, that were rowing the best, won. And the one that was not looking like it was rowing so effectively raced as hard as they could to stay with the ones that are rowing efficiently. And then because they're not rowing as efficiently, couldn't step up in the same way. And I think the intent and physicality and everything was there, but it's the rowing. And I think the job of the coach is to make sure they're technically rowing excellently. So I hope that going forwards, the sculling is they have more of a focus on how they're rowing, not how hard they're rowing.
Yeah, I mean they're some of the biggest, strongest guys. Their air scores are absolutely incredible. So I think what you're saying, it makes sense. They just need to be a bit more efficient around the water. And also, like, in all fairness, when you say that, you know, the crews from the podium were at like 44, the British crew was at like 39, considering that they were only a second behind the medal, there's like the difference between like not being able to like take those extra like 4, 5, 6 strokes.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it came down to.
And that was it. And it was kind of what we've previously, when our British rowing pods have been rowing really well, they have a really fast last 500 meters. And when I watched it, it was kind of like at 750 meters to go, of pods of the past we've seen, you go, hey, the position they're in right now, they're going to win a medal because they're going to charge through everyone. But they've had to work so hard to be in that position in this case because they weren't quite as effective or as efficient as they'd want to be. And the thing is, Paul Standout is a great coach. He really is a great coach. From my experience of him, I think it'd be great if he would just be more active as a coach and stay more, because sometimes I felt a little bit like we try and do it 90% well 100% of the time rather than really strive for 100% well through the winter, through everything, and really get the rowing really to a point. Yeah, so I was gutted for the guys. I really was. To be honest, I burst into tears when they crossed the line. I was really upset because I really wanted to see them. I really, really, really wanted to see them win a medal, and especially Graham. I so wanted to see Graham because he's such a good athlete. He's such a good athlete, and he's, you know, I replaced him in Tokyo when he was sick. No, in Rio, sorry, when he was sick. So when I replaced him, I felt so bad about it because he had earned his seat and he was so good and he was at the top of his game and should have been able to go and do himself justice. And then for him to then finish 4th in Tokyo and then do pretty well in the single the next year, win a bronze medal, then have so much injury, then get back. And this time I thought, you know, if he can just get on the podium with anything, he's been flogging himself in the GB rowing team for 12 years to get it. That would be great. And I saw them stop after when they crossed the line and kind of heads go down, and you see the 3 that do get medals all cheering, and you know when you win these medals, all the pain of the last 6 minutes has disappeared straight away, and you feel great. The other way, it goes the other way when you're not. And also, I think, and what I remember from some regattas, some very, very big regattas, is when you don't get the result you want, you kind of just sit there. You don't actually want to row into the landing stage because you see it at Henley. Crews will sit there for ages, or you'll see it at the World Championships. It's almost like by rowing in, you're accepting it. It's real, and you actually have to start processing that it's a real thing. Yeah. And it's actually what's actually just happened. You've just come 4th at the Olympics. It's not a PlayStation game where you can turn it off and do it again. That's it. And I really felt for them. I really hope that they are proud of how they raced it, because they did race. I think they raced it as well as they could have done. I just like to see, to be honest, I'd like to see better sculling technique across our scullers in Great Britain, and because I think, like, I was disappointed that we didn't have a double at the Olympics. In fact, I'm 100% certain we have the talent that we should have had a double at the Olympics. No question. Probably a single too. And I think that it's because of a focus on ergo scores, certainly, and not enough focus on how we're gelling these crews together, which is why they're not there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that,
and I don't think that's the fault of the athletes, by the way. I actually don't. I think the athletes are trying their best.
Yeah. I think the GB system has always been very physiologically focused.
Yeah,
there's always a lot of numbers and a lot of things like that. Potentially, when you've got such big units, you got even more sort of blinded by look at these numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, and it's like, if we can have this catch slip and this peak power on the telemetry and we put in this ergo score and paddle along at this paddling speed, we're going to get to this level. And it's like, well, you can kind of get you can hit these numbers by just working harder every day. Like you can get the good paddling speeds by just pulling harder. You can get this. I always had really bad catch slip on the telemetry, to be honest, but when it was at race pace, it was great. So maybe it's an arbitrary number anyway.
Make up for the line swing.
Yeah, my peak force was actually always very good. So
that's the thing they always say. Don't look at that. Don't look at that.
If your peak force when your blade's going through 90 degrees, if that's high, you're moving the boat, aren't you? I think. Yeah. Anyway, as for the sculling, I just think that it needs a bit of a fresh look at. I think they need to look at what the Leander Club guys are doing, to be honest. And I'm going to be so biased because I've been at Leander for years, was captain there, I always get involved. I love it. But their 2 quads this year at Henley were fantastic. They looked great. They beat crews that were really top level crews. They were going. I've seen some of their times they did in training, which was super fast. I understand that the quad that won the Queen Mother did a 5:43 2K. Like, hey, these guys are not even in the national team. Within that squad, there absolutely should have been a double that would qualify for the Olympics, including the guys that didn't, Seb, Deborah, and John, and those guys. Between there should have absolutely been a double. And to be honest, I think that the coaches at Caversham should be looking at the way the club athletes are rowing and go, hey, we want a bit of that. Or even the crews that beat them. But they can't just keep doing it that same way.
Yeah.
No.
I also think it's
place will be a wake up call, yeah.
Yeah, I hope so, because they do have really capable coaches, but to be honest, I think they need those capable coaches need to be a bit more involved and a bit more diligent.
Yeah. I'm also, it's worth pointing out, we were talking about everything's relative. It's the double-edged sort of being an incredible system is not medaling at the Olympics feels like some sort of failure at the time, but hey, I'd fucking love to have gone to the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I think they have to be proud of that. And that's something that's difficult to be proud of in the moment. But I think the further you get away from your career, the more you can look back and be like, hang on, A final, 4th in the world. Like, that ain't bad.
Yeah.
Cool.
Worth noting. Cool. So moving on to the bronze medalist. First up, I've got the women's double written out.
Yeah.
Which is the girls who 6 weeks before the Olympics didn't even know they were going to be going to Paris. They had to go through the qualifying regatta for them to then come second in their heat, second in the semi. They came third and finished third overall in the final.
Yeah.
How did you see that?
They were incredible.
Yeah.
That was just so brave and just they didn't show anyone any respect. And there were people they should have been showing respect to in a way. Like, hey, you got the Romania who won the last Olympics. They were winning loads of races before by miles. They've got who was it? The New Zealand double that ended up winning. Brooke Francis was winning loads. She was winning plenty of world championships before the Tokyo Olympics. Loads of really good athletes, and they came through the qualifying. I don't think they didn't win the qualifiers, did they? They kind of. I don't think they were in the A final at the Europeans before that, or one of the races before that. And they just turned up and stuck it to them. I loved it. I loved the way they just showed absolutely they just took every race by the scruff of their neck and were like, hey, we're the GB women's double. We're going to absolutely turn up and try and win. And they did. The semi-final, I was commentating on that for Talk Sport at the time. And I was watching on the screen. I was just like, okay, that is a proper ballsy strategy. Like, just try and clear everyone out. And actually, it started to get a bit tight at the end. But they almost beat the Olympic champions in that race. And they were so impressive. And they raced that final again fearlessly. Yeah. And I was so proud of them. And with Matilda Hodgkins-Byrne, she didn't qualify for the Rio Olympics. They missed out on the final qualifying. She finished, I think, 7th in the quad in Tokyo, had a baby, has come back. And to be honest, I wasn't sure she was going to come back after the baby. I didn't really know we'd not really seen people do that involved in the squad and come back. I know Helen's come back, but that was in a bit of a different way. She kind of had her bait. She stopped and then came back, whereas Matilda kind of kept trying to train with it and has now won a bronze medal. So incredible. And Becky Wild, like, I'm pretty sure she was rowing at Leander at the start of the season, like not even part of the national team. So to be so cool under pressure like she was, like, if you watch it back, she hardly takes a stroke and she hardly looks out the boat. She's just there in her boat doing her thing. And what a sort of cool customer. So I didn't expect them to win a medal. I didn't, it's not that I didn't think they could, but it just wasn't really something I expected to happen. Well, from the first heat, it was like, hey, they're on for one here. And they were just brilliant. Yeah. It was so brave, so cool. Yeah. That's how you should turn up at the Olympics. And we saw other countries doing that. The rest of our medalists, you're expected to win a medal. Mm-hmm. But you saw some other people from across the board, like, I guess we won't talk about it because it's not a British crew, but the men's double. Romania, they turned up for that final like, hey, we've scraped in here. We actually have scraped in, because if that bloke from Serbia hadn't completely blown in the last 3 strokes, we wouldn't have even made the final. Let's just turn up and go for it and do a full outside lane smoker. And they did an outside lane smoker and won. Like, that's amazing. It's like, hey, you're in the Olympic final here. Okay, Netherlands have been crushing everyone for the last 3 years, but so what? And those 2 doubles were probably, in a way, the most exciting and ballsy crews of the regatta.
You've got to stick your hand in the fire. Like, you've got to be willing to risk it. And then that was sort of my opinion on the men's 4 in Tokyo. They risked everything to go for a medal. And hey, it didn't play off. And that's the joy of watching it. But to watch someone risk it and make it means sometimes you're going to watch people risk it and not make it.
Yeah. And that's kind of what our approach was in Tokyo for our final. It was like, look, we thought that we were the 3rd best crew there anyway, but it was like, let's just go out there and take it as hard as we can and just shock everyone. No one's going to expect us to lead them off the start because we were normally quick in the second half, but just go for it. And we went for it. And okay, we didn't quite manage the Romanian outside lane smoker, but we were nearly there. And I think there's always going to be someone in the Olympics that will just try something. Yeah. And why not be you?
Yeah. Well, that's what we're talking about, right? It doesn't matter what you've been doing for the last 3 years. It's just the next 6 minutes in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you do that?
No head starts for what you've done in the last
Easy to say, but hard to do. Like you said, you have all this stuff in your head. You recognize the people you're sat next to. Yeah. It's very easy to let this all get on top of you. So from like you say, from like Becky, exactly, like not even been involved into squad to find herself at the Olympics and be that level-headed and race that way. Like you said, it was fit. It was absolutely fearless race.
If she decides to stop now, she has absolutely nailed rowing. Like, just finish university, go and row at Leander for a couple of years, do half a season in the GB rowing team, win a bronze medal out. That would be. I hope she carries on because she's obviously very, very talented and. That if she can win a bronze like this, she can definitely be winning gold medals.
I mean, that's one way to do it, isn't it? And also, like you said, they were leading for 1500 meters, the Olympic champions from Romania. So that's So do you think you should just not show respect to other people at the Olympics and just like go for it, or
just just because these people have done something before doesn't mean they're better than you. I think that there's a huge mindset to that, and of course you can't do something that you can't do, but you can definitely. You don't know what you're capable of until you really push these limits. And, I was so impressed. And to be honest, I was a bit nervous for them each time when they shot out because it was like, there's going to come a point where this really hurts and everyone else will start sprinting. But they were brilliant.
It was fearless and it wasn't uncontrolled. They still knew what they were doing. They didn't blow their doors off and 500 gone. They absolutely went for it, but it was smart racing.
Yeah.
Cool. Moving on to the men's 4. Came 3rd overall, got a bronze medal, 2nd in their heat, and then up against a very strong field in the A final, came 3rd.
Yeah.
How did you see the event go?
Yeah, I think they rode a great race. I think they were, okay, they have done very well over the last few years and pretty much won everything for since Tokyo, since they got into this 4 with the different people that have been in it. I think that event really picked up this year. I think that New Zealand and USA were much better than than those crews had been in the previous couple of years. So I don't think our crew has gone backwards. I just think they've got leapfrogged. And I think they were really good. I think they raced that race really, really well. Of course, they had a probably like to have featured in the race for gold a bit more and, got out of the blocks a bit quicker. But really, if they'd done that, maybe would they have been more in the race for fourth as well? Like, I don't know, but it's really hard to win Olympic medals. It really is. And now they have them. I think that's, for any of them that will carry on, great. We've got an Olympic medal. Now they can feel confident with their training. Hey, we've managed to be a world champion, Olympic medalist. Let's turn up with our sort of chest puffed backs training and do even more. Or if they don't, they go, hey, what a pretty cool few years. We've won the world championships and won a medal at the Olympics. That's every rower's dream, really.
Yeah.
So I thought they were very good. And I understand they've had some injury problems and some illness and stuff, but to be honest, those crews that beat them, they just looked a bit more punchy and powerful and strong. I remember in Lucerne when I saw it was the same people that beat them in Lucerne. It was the same medalists, I think, exactly. I saw them getting their medals and I was there in Lucerne watching. The Kiwis and the USA just looked a bit like more bigger shoulders, bigger guys, a bit more jacked and had that punchiness underwater. Our British boat, I think if I was watching them, it's not a problem, but they looked very smooth and long and all this. But maybe what the difference is the others just had that ability for a bit more grunt. And to be honest, they were very impressive. The USA, I thought they were really good in that four.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree with you. I think there's been some pretty significant. They've not had the best season. Certain heard stories of, some of them, not being able to get out of bed, like real bad back problems and things like that at times. So, it's difficult. And then obviously, there is an expectation based on the results they've had in the few years before. But then I also think that's a really difficult point. So if you're out winning the 2 years before, all you can do is keep doing what you're doing. Everyone else gets to say, that's where I need to go.
Yeah.
It's like when you get to go second on any test. All right, we're going to see how many press-ups we can do, but you go first.
Yeah.
And you know where you're chasing, you know what you're trying to do. Because you're not winning, you're making changes. And then what we were talking before about, teams like Italy, America, they do tend to seem to step up.
Yeah.
So I think a combination of all those things. But yeah, I think having spoken to people who know them the rest of it, I think there's a sense that they feel like very happy with achieving that.
I hope so, because it was fantastic. And also, I don't know how they picked the boats, but from an outside perspective, I'd imagine the top two athletes were in the pair, the rest next are in the 8, and then the next in the 4. I think maybe. I don't know. Or maybe they tried to optimize it each way. I don't know. But if you've got an 8 winning, a pair coming second, and if you're the third priority boat, I don't know, that might be wrong with that. But if you are, and you're still winning a bronze medal, hey, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah,
whole sweep team came home with medals. Yeah,
that's really, really cool. And I'd be absolutely delighted with a bronze medal. I'd have been pumped with it. So
it's something that you can definitely tell stories about years into the future. But if you also want to find this comparison, because you're saying the crews got leapfrogged, I also do think that's the case, because who won in Tokyo? Australia, with Alex Hill, etc.
Yeah.
Well, they were dead last in this part.
Yeah, they didn't feature. I don't know what they're up to be honest.
So that wasn't even
out in last place.
That wasn't their full lineup from what I know. I think
3 of them were in the 8.
Yeah, so they got moved to the 8, but still, you've got these guys who've won the Olympics before.
They also came 4th, so.
So if they take the 3 guys out into the 8 because they're clearly not confident about winning a medal in the 4, that just shows us how much the standard of this event has also improved since the last Olympics.
Yeah.
So no kudos to the GB4. Moving on to the women's 8 with their bronze medal. They won their heat by miles.
Yeah.
And then they came third in the A final after Canada absolutely stormed out of the blocks.
Yeah. Okay, I think that heat was fantastic in the women's 8. It was brilliant. And so was the final. And to get a bronze medal again when the 4 has also won a silver medal, that's a really strong performance from the team. They probably would have liked to get a silver. I think they probably thought they could definitely win a silver, and I thought they would win a silver, to be honest. But then actually, what happens in an Olympic regatta is the regatta moves on every day. People improve. It's not like how you are in the heat. You have to be better than you are in your heat in the final. You have to. And by going through the repechage like Canada did, you actually have an opportunity to improve, do something different. Go, heat wasn't that good. How can we do that better? You've got a training day in between. Then you do the repechage, implement it. Then you have another day of training or to recover still. So you're not, we all train super hard. You can race several times a day and you'll be fine. Like having a race in your legs is, I think that's nothing. As long as you've been training hard, which they all have.
Yeah.
So Canada could turn up to the final actually feeling smug. They've had the opportunity to improve. Now we're going to go and do it. And that's what they did. And I think our women's 8, they raced really, really well. I hope they're, again, delighted with a bronze medal because it's awesome. And yeah, I think if you were to be critical, maybe they'd have actually been better off going through the rep, not winning their heat by so much and going, crap, how are we going to be a bit better, and having a bit more of a focused few days. But I'm not inside their boat. I don't know how they were. Maybe they did have their best ever race in the final. I don't know. Maybe Canada just did something special. But Romania did do something special. They were really impressive, especially with a lot of these people doubling up. Yeah, they looked like they were clear water or very close to it. They were very, very impressive. But I think our women's 8, like, have we ever had the 4's only just come in. We've only just first time we've had a medal in it. So we would never have had so many women's sweepers winning a medal. No, so we had an 8 get a silver and a women's pair win gold in Rio. That was very, very good.
Yeah.
But I think this is the second time the Great Britain women's 8's won a medal at the Olympics, right?
Yeah, and also
it was just really cool. Well done.
Definitely worth mentioning that about 18 months ago, it didn't exist, the Women's 8 project. Certainly 2 years ago, it wasn't there. They didn't even have one. And I think it was about 18 months ago that they started sort of trying to put this together.
Yeah, it's everything to go from Tokyo 7th place to bronze medal in Paris. Really good job.
I was going to say this bronze medal's got a very, very similar vibe to the women's double runs. Like, just brave racing, short projects, and girls are absolutely delivering at the stage where it matters.
Yeah. And actually, if you were to look back to Lucerne again, in the heat in Lucerne, they were sort of 4th or 5th or something. They did win a silver medal, I think, in the end. Mm-hmm. But there were a lot of different crews that sometimes just did very different stuff in that event. And so I put an accumulator bet on the Olympics, and I lost it because the Romanian double, actually. I put money on the Netherlands, which I thought was a very safe bet. But I didn't want to bet on the women's 8 because I just felt like it was such a up and down event through the season. And I want to bet on the British crews if I can. But as an event, it's been, apart from, I thought Romania might be really strong, but you didn't really know who might do what. So they turned up and did very well.
You say it's another one of those races where you could have raced it 10 times and had 10 results.
Yeah.
So you just got to be happy that you came out on that podium on that day.
Yeah.
That was good.
Definitely big congratulations to the crew. Yeah. Let's move on to the silver medalists. We've got the women's 4 who won their heats and then came second in the final after an incredibly close finish with the Netherlands.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk about Helen coming back into the team for, what was it, 4th, 5th games?
4th. Yeah. I think with this race, you have to put into the context that a year ago, they got a bronze medal at the World Championships. I had them down to win. I thought they were going to win. But the crew that beat them from the Netherlands have been the world champions before that. And although the British rowing team was so strong through the World Cup series, the only day where you know that everyone's at 100% is the Olympic final day. And okay, they did give away quite a lot in the first part of the race. And I'm not sure if they gave it away, or if the Netherlands took it from them. But either way, there was pretty quickly, like a length that they had to try and catch up, which is very hard to do. And it's super tight. Was it 0.19 seconds or something like that? It's under 0.2 of a second. Really tight. It's the surge of a boat, really, that makes these differences. And I guess as a whole, the British rowing team, when you watch them, men and women, we're not that great at those first and last 10 strokes. And we're really snappy, sharp stuff. And I think that's something that they all need to look at, because there's a huge culture of what do we do between 250 and 1750, and that sort of middle 1500 meters of the race, and doing that really, really well. But sometimes that's not enough. And there was, as a fan watching it, you were just hoping for that moment where the British 4 would go down to like 3/4 slide and shift up to rate 46 and overtake them. But it never really came. It just looked like they were in this long rhythm, and everything they were catching up you just wanted that moment where they'll just snap and go for it. And of course they're trying their hardest. It's not a criticism. They were trying to, but I wonder whether that can come into training a bit to make it a bit more like able to have that really, really, Sinkovic-like sprint.
Yeah.
But they're that much off a gold medal at the Olympics. It's
how much can they really be faulted? Right?
Yeah, and they were still really good against the people who were the world champions the year before. I mean, that's important.
Yeah, incredible. Like that's an uncontrollable margin. You can't say that they won or lost. Ultimately, the Netherlands came out on top on that one. But that's that is world class. That is absolutely top of your game.
Yeah,
gold or silver, with a 0.1 in the difference. There's nothing.
Yeah,
there's nothing that you can be unhappy with.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be.
And apart from Helen, who's won 2 gold medals, obviously, and I'm sure she's got a very different journey now since she's had kids and a bit older. But for the other 3, they've not won Olympic medals before. It's awesome. They've won a silver medal at the Olympics. It's so cool. And because they've won a few of the races leading up to it and a couple of world championships or the 2022 world championships, I'm sure they'd have dreamt of gold and wanted to win gold and been in that race to try and win gold. And they did try and win gold. But I don't think it's a gold medal lost. They still won a great silver medal.
I completely agree. If you were to divide that 0.2 of a second across 2K between every stroke, it literally comes down to nothing.
Yeah.
The difference. So it's just a draw of the lack, maybe a lane, or just it's just how it went. Netherlands did smart by getting a little bit ahead of them and instantly giving them a task.
Yeah.
Not just letting them race. They had to adapt to what they were doing.
They took it to them. They took the race by the Netherlands in the same way they did in the women's quad, and they took the race by the scruff of the neck, and comparatively comparable with the women's quad, it was a very similar race. It's just in the women's quad rather than women's 4, the Dutch blew a bit more basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, obviously Helen's not one but two mums now with medals.
Yeah,
British rowing team.
That's
awesome.
impressive.
Awesome to see. I can't imagine. I could barely manage my life when I was training and trying to look after myself. Yeah. So I don't know how you do it. Yeah. So that's awesome, and hopefully, something for others to feel like that might be achievable in the future.
And I think she'll still be happy with that because ultimately she's improved her result from Tokyo. So she also upgraded from 4th to 2nd.
Yeah. So I think there's no medal at the Olympics to be sniffed at. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And when they're stood there on the podium, getting given their Olympic medals, even when the ones that some of the crews that are favourite that didn't win, for example, the Romanian women's double, getting their silver medals, they still look delighted because it's very hard. You work very hard, and it's still the biggest event in the world, and you're still winning a medal there. And and if you've lost to people who are incredible. Yeah. That's the most important thing.
That's the thing. Yeah, definitely. Well, talking about losing to people who are absolutely incredible, let's talk about the men's pair who have won their heat, came 2nd in the semi, then stepped it up for the final, led the entire field.
Yeah.
And with about 5 strokes to go, just got overtaken by the Croatians, came 2nd, got a silver medal.
Yeah.
What did that look like from your perspective?
I think I want to start with a few things with this pair. Firstly, Ollie Wynne-Griffith used to be a stroke sider as well. So they both actually used to row in the 8 on the same side. In Tokyo, I think they might have been on the same side in Tokyo. Oh. He swapped side to do this pair while they were in Cambridge and then do the boat race. So already really impressive because I've not done that. Sometimes I go sweeping and I'm not really a sweeper, but even when I try and go on stroke side, I'm like, oh, that's I'm not as good as I am on bow side. Feels harder to apply power and stuff. When you've had years and years and years of ingrading one, it must be very hard to change. And to get to that level, really cool. I don't think they could have raced that any better in the final. I think the semi-final, they'd have been disappointed to lose to the Romanians in that semi-final. It kind of looked as though from where I was, the Romanians jumped out and then the British never quite hit a good rhythm because they were probably a bit stressed that they weren't leading. And I don't know, I'm not inside it, but it kind of looked like that. But the final, they did what they normally do and shoot off, have a really good middle K. And, what some of those other pairs have been really good at, and it's shown over the last 3 years, is the sprint finish. And that has been where our pairs have been vulnerable. You've seen crews like Romania or or Switzerland overtake them in these sprints. And I'm sure in the back of their mind when they were coming towards the end of that race and the Sinkovic started catching up, it was like, oh, hang on a minute, they're good at this and this maybe isn't our strong point. But they raced it so well. And there was something happened. I saw something happen towards the end of the race, some scuff of blade or something, which probably slowed them down or did slow them down. I don't know if that's the difference between gold or silver. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe it was. And if it was, that's fine because that was because they'd pushed themselves so hard for 1,980 meters that they had actually gone to their limit and forced a mistake.
Yeah.
Because they tried their hardest and because, and the Sinkovic was so, the Croatian pair was so good in their sprint finish that they forced this mistake. If that's the difference between why it's gold or silver, fine. That's just part of it.
Yeah. We talked about this a lot at Henley, and you sort of see if someone catches a crab in the last 10, whatever, they say, people will say like, oh, they must be gutted. They must be so disappointed. They must be so gutted. And you're like, it's not. It's because they're pushing on that red line. They've had to go. The other crew
so to be proud.
The other crew has forced them to try and go further than they've ever gone before.
Yeah.
And then that's where you force a mistake.
That's kind of what I bumped into the guys afterwards behind the grandstands, and I said, like, guys, I think Ollie said something like, it was our best ever race apart from the last sort of 20 strokes. I said, well, that means you had sort of 200 amazing strokes before that, right? And they know that, and I'm sure they're very proud. And who they lost to, I think, they're the greatest. They're incredible, and they have won a silver medal in the quad in London when they must have been about, 23 years old or something. They won the senior worlds when they were under 23s in the quad, right? I remember that. I mean, they won the under 23s and seniors in the same year. Like, who does that? And then
it's not cool.
Leave some for the rest of us.
And in Rio, they were just amazing in the double. They were like, they've gone sub 6 in the double, this sort of thing. Then gone into the pair, won gold in the pair, and they didn't even look that good compared to some pairs.
Yeah.
But then this regatta, they turned up looking like a really good pair. I don't know if you picked up on that watching it, but I was watching thinking, hey, hang on a minute. They look like a pair now, not a double in a pair. They looked longer. They just looked smoother. They just looked really good. So actually, all credit to the Sinkovic brothers. That was incredible. That I'd say in 2-man rowing, they are the GOATs now.
Yeah.
They are the GOATs. To do it in a double and a pair. And then they went back into double and then decided, oh no, we're not good enough at this. Let's go back into pair. That's working for us this last few years. That's it. They're incredible. And I went to this, they had this thing called the Champions Walk in Paris where the Olympians were invited to come and kind of do this the medalists invited to kind of do this catwalk in front of a load of fans in front of the Eiffel Tower. And I went the day that a lot of the rowers went, so I wanted to go and cheer them on and support them. And the two pairs, the Sinkovic pair and the British pair, walked out together. All these teams were getting announced one by one, but they said they wanted to go out together. So they kind of went alternating between them. The 4 of them walked out. And that was really nice. There's such respect between competitors that they had that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I think that's another thing as well. Like, like you said, the truly incredible crews somehow find this extra gear at the Olympics. Yeah. Like, everyone's found an extra gear, but then there's something. And I think maybe a lot of that's to do with, we've been here before. We've got the confidence. We've got the gold. There's not the pressures off the shoulders. We've had the performance. You can just be so much more sort of fluid and loose and in your own place, maybe. And
of course those guys dreamed of gold and they wanted it so much. And there's, I'm sure, the most mixed emotions of like, we were so close to winning gold and didn't manage it. And we'd led this race for so long and didn't get it. But also, I really think they've lost to the greatest. So there's no shame in that. And to be so close to that is really cool. And you're never going to win these races by miles. It's never going to just happen. These races, especially in the pairs. Okay, the Kiwi pair maybe were different in that they did win by miles, but I also think that much of the time they were scaring people out of the boat class. They were.
So this is the thing. Initially, Sinkovic's were scullers, so they, like you said, they won silver in the quad, and they won the double. Absolutely obliterated everyone. They were like, right, let's have a go at the Kiwi pair.
I got a story about this. So,
okay, go on.
So I got what's the word? I got admonished by an elder, quite fairly well respected old coach from the UK, because when the Sinkovich brothers announced that they were going to go, so they tried to go back into double. I think they came fourth at the World Championships or something like that. And then they announced that they were going to go back in the pair again. And World Rowing posted something about it. And I commented, like, looks like they've chosen the easy event with a wink. And because obviously I was a sculler, so I'm always going to say that sculling was harder, right? Yeah. Of course I am. And they only managed to win the double once at the Olympics. Of course it's harder. No, of course I know it's not. But I was joking, and I got a message from one old coach saying, like, your unsportsmanlike comment is beneath you. There are no easy events. I thought it was obvious that it was a joke. Yeah. Apparently not. And the thing is, those guys, we used to race each other too. I used to race in the double when they were in the double, and sort of before the Rio Olympics. We've been in the same races a lot. Of course, they'd have known I was joking. And my point was proven. They won in the end. But it definitely wasn't an easy event, because that looked horrible.
Well, that's the thing, though. The double that they swapped with the Doncic brothers, like, I don't know where they came.
No, they were, I think they're in the final.
So I think, I guess they improved technically, like, more years of experience in the pair. It's a shame they never got to race the Kiwis, because I think that's the reason why they initially went into the pair after Rio Olympics. That's what I was getting at earlier, just to race like Bond and Murray. But like, now they're triple Olympic champions. That's like a very, very small club. I mean, it's Hamish Bond, Pete Reed, Andy Hodge, Matt Pinsent, and Steve Redgrave on the men's side. That's literally
it.
Yeah.
Ooh, 3 goals.
No other countries have done.
On the men's side, I'm not too sure about.
No, there were people from like back in the day though. There's definitely there's maybe Carpen in the Finnish single sculler. I think he might have won 3. Yeah. He definitely won 2. I'm sure there's people back in the day that have won.
But it's definitely a small club.
But like in like the professionalized era of rowing, that's
it's amazing. Honestly, but that pairs race was insane. And the guys, Ollie and Tom, they were brilliant. They really were brilliant. And the fact that they got that little bit scrappy at the end shows that they could do nothing more. They can never look back and go, we could have done better. We could have done more. They couldn't have done more. And that was just brilliant.
I'm glad that it didn't cost them any more medals. Like, silver's perfect for what they've done.
Yeah. When it happened, I was a bit worried. Like, are they going to get it back and get across the line, or is this going to really go to shit? So thankfully they also reacted to it well to not let it become a race ruiner.
Yeah, it's impressive. I think, from talking about it, the disappointment, if there is any, it's not a disappointment in any of the results. It's that everyone wants the best. We want the best for everyone there, and we know everyone there. We know the aim. Everyone's dream is the gold, right? So there was always going to be that sense of disappointment, maybe not achieving what you had aimed for at the top, but like at the same time, like there's no one's disappointed in anyone's performance.
My disappointment with the team ever is I know how it feels when you don't get what you want, and I know how they'll feel, and I care. Yeah. Like, to be honest, Of course, it's like nice to watch GB win anyway, but I care that the athletes who work really hard get what they put in and get the outcome that they want. But I'm also aware that everyone wants that around the world. So you have to be a realist about it, right? But like, ultimately, I think that was one important thing I had to realize in my last couple of years was like, anyone close to me cares if I win because they know that I care. They don't actually care if I win. Yeah. As a sport, they care if I win because it means something to me. And that was once I kind of got my head around that, it's quite freeing.
Yeah. Because you can sort of feel like there's the weight on your shoulders.
Yeah.
You have to
do well for other people. They don't care. They just care that you're happy.
Yeah. I mean, I was very happy with your 5th in Rio. I thought that was incredible.
Yeah.
For what it was at the time. So like, no, exactly. Yeah. Cherry on top. Let's move over to our gold medalists.
Yeah.
Let's start with the women's squad. Yeah, I know. So they won their heat and then they absolutely smashed their final. Like, what?
Yeah, they did. This squad's done really well. They are the world champions, right? Into this. And in that world championships, they sprinted through in the last little bit and won by a tiny amount ahead of, I think, Netherlands and China. It was really, really tight. I think that it was, maybe they won by a little bit more in that, but not very much at all. And they definitely they caught them up. After the heats, I was sure they were going to win gold. I was like, they've won this time. They won that heat by miles. It was 3 or 4 seconds quicker than the Dutch in the other heat. they're just going to turn up and clean up here. But it's never that simple, is it? And the Dutch, I'm sure, knew that. They probably looked at the times and went, hey, hang on a minute, we're 4 seconds down on GB up in this. We need to go out quicker and try and put something to them. And they did it. And the Dutch raced that race so heroically. And you could see there was a lot of pain at the end of it in all of them. That the technique was kind of going and that. Whereas I don't know what the British girls' race plan was, but I don't think they would have wanted to be as far down as they were to start with. But they very quickly got some of it back and very quickly were sort of half the length down. And it was just the weirdest thing seeing their bow just constantly between the 2 and 3 of the Dutch boat. And whenever you thought, they're going to make a move here in the second half where they've been strong, it just didn't happen. Or every time they did it, it just got matched straight away. And even with 150 meters to go, it was like, they're not going to catch this. There's not enough lake for them to catch up as much as they need to. Really, it just looked like, you can sort of gauge those distances, and it was like, they're going to do the most amazing catch, recovery in this race and catch them up, but just missed out. And then the sort of last 5 strokes, it was like, oh my goodness, they just overhauled them. It was amazing. And being in the stands there, I went absolutely mental. And I think so many people did. It was I think it was probably the best rowing race I've ever seen in that. It was just so cool. And then they were so cool as well. Like the moment they realized it was awesome on the podium, they were all like having a boogie and just having a great time. They've been celebrities nonstop, since. We've never won a gold medal in that event before either in the Olympics. And we've seen a lot of silvers in it I think it was Sydney, Athens and Beijing.
Yeah, Beijing with China.
Definitely Beijing when they were winning all the way and then China overtook them. There's been heartbreak in that event. And, for them to go and just to go and do it I'm getting goosebumps now. It was the coolest thing. And, I think and each of them has really cool stories too, but my sort of, the ones that I guess I know better, like Georgie Brayshaw, she was rowing at Leander while I was, vice captain and captain there. And there was a lot of times when she was sort of being ping-ponged between Caversham and Leander, and like being invited to Caversham, not being picked for a boat. But then by that point, her kind of season had been ruined because Caversham never let go of her until after the Henley entries had closed or things like that. Mm-hmm. But it just felt like she was being screwed over a lot. And she just turned up with the best attitude all the time. I remember one time, there was a time at Caversham where she had to do a 2K ergo test, did it. And then for some reason had to do another one like the next day. I can't remember what the reason. She didn't moan one bit, just went and smashed it. And she's so cool. And I was delighted to see her, couldn't be more happy to see her win the gold medal. Lola, the story we've all heard about the things she wrote in her diary. Again, just so sweet, but she is an awesome athlete. I got to know her when she joined Leander in 2020 or 21. And, she turned up really cool, won the women's single at Henley. It was just like, okay, this is awesome. This person's awesome. And she's now the captain of the club and a great, ambassador for the sport, but also just teammate. You want her on your side. I don't really know Lauren very well, but watching her row, you're just like, hey, she looks a little bit shorter. She's definitely one of those savvy sort of ones that just gets their blade in a little bit early and picks up the boat, I think. And Hannah, she used to be a sweeper, and she was at university in the States, and she was sweeping at under 23s and that kind of stuff. And then came in the other year when she was in the single she was just incredible. And she made the final her semi-final at the World Championships was so cool. I was like, hey, I knew she was good, but didn't realize she was this good, kind of. And now for them, they all deserve to be Olympic champions so much. So it was.
Mate, completely. I'm just smiling, thinking back to that race. I've watched this so many times on YouTube, the replay, and I'm not that emotional when it comes to watching row races, but there were definitely tears, in my eyes. So my first year at uni, it was also the first year I think that Lola was at Newcastle, so I know her from back in that time, and then having spoken to her last year and seeing how that's all come about, and the fact that it was very Barcelona Cox-Perez final, where you watch it, you're they're gonna run out, and for them to get it, couldn't be happier.
Oh, it's so cool. And the one thing that was horrible was it was the race after the men's quad, and the races went that spaced out that day. So while I was gutted for the men, it literally just went, and back up to the start. It's for the women's quad. It's I'm not ready. I need some more time to get my composure back after the sort of heartbreak of the men's quad. But there was, that was just really special.
Really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go over to the last men's crew that we'll be talking about. The men's 8, the super dominant, massive, hugely powerful British 8. They won their heat, and then they, in fantastic style, won their final as well. I think they got maybe slightly challenged by like the other crews in the first sort of half of the race, and they're like, nah, none of it. Like, let's just go.
Okay, so I think they've gone into that regatta as favourites, right? But there's a few different things that have happened through the last couple of years. Like they lost, I think they might have lost the race in Lucerne last year to Australia. And this year they lost the heat in Lucerne to USA. And they beat USA by like a gnat's cock. By a gnat's cock in the, can I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat the USA by a gnat's cock in Lucerne this year. And there was probably a bit of chat like the USA might beat them and the Netherlands really threw it at them in the first half of that race. So I think the Netherlands were leading at halfway, actually, on thing. I think the British rode their own race, won it, they executed it exactly how they would have wanted to, and it was brilliant. And there's a recording of Harry Brightmore's boxing, which is really cool to listen to. I wish that he didn't censor his swear words, and I wish he kept beyond the finish line, because I want to hear what he was saying when he stood up in the boat.
Oh yeah,
because that's I want to hear that. So Harry, if you hear this, please release an uncensored one. What I love to see, and I don't know if I can say this kind of stuff, but like I quite like seeing the US not win, because I'm a massive cheerleader for the sport and for the team. And last year before the World Championships, the US 8 released this video, like it was like a load of military airplanes dropping bombs, eagles, all this like proper America fuck yeah kind of video, which was quite funny. Yeah. But it started off with like, hey GB, you're going down, with Clark Dean from the men's 8 in doing that. And as I was outside the team now, I could just comment on it because I knew the guys would have avoided it. So I just commented like, and this was just before the World Championships, before the qualifying, and I just commented saying, looking forward to cheering for you guys in Lucerne next year. and then the best bit was, then they didn't qualify. So it was like, and someone had already screenshotted it, and one of like the rowing accounts shared this thing, and there was a lot of engagement. And that, even though I'm sure it was a joke within their thing, that level of like, it was just, you can do that when you're good, but they weren't good. And it was kind of like, what
you got to back
this?
it up.
And to be fair, they were really impressive in Lucerne, and I think they probably thought they could come and win a gold medal in Paris. But to be honest, I'm as a British fan and a fan of the sport, I just think that, you know what, they were a bit cocky and whatever.
That's it. They got shown.
Yeah, and for me, as a personal side, like a bunch of those guys in the GB8 are really tight friends of mine. Like Jacob Dawson is someone I've known since I was sort of 14 years old, racing each other. Sholto, I've raced like 10 years ago. We won the quad together at Henley. Morgan Boulding, I used to live with him for a year or so. They're all like proper, like salt of the earth, like great guys. And, they train really, really hard. They row really, really well. Their coach, Steve Trapmore, has won the 8 as well, which is a really sweet thing to now have won it, and as a coach and an athlete. Any Americans watching, I'm a little bit sorry for my comments here, but I'm not sorry for what I wrote on Instagram, because that was funny.
I don't know. I will say, we've had this conversation before. We were talking about it again yesterday. Don't have it. It's a Napoleon quote, isn't it?
Don't give people a reason to be here.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Yeah, I think that, like, what I always tried my best to do when I was running internationally was get on with everyone.
Yeah.
And like, firstly, don't give them a reason to beat you. And secondly, I think you want to be mates with these people afterwards. Like, it was really nice to walk around the boat park or not the boat park, but the area in Paris, this time, and catch up with a load of the guys I used to race against. Like the stroke guy of the double from Romania that won, used to race him all the time. So it was funny. I was like, oh, how was it? And he said, oh, it wasn't difficult at all. I had a bit of a laugh. And same with the Dutch double. Like, these are guys I used to race against, and we always just got on very well. And there was never any animosity. And same with the guys in the quad. It's really nice. And in a way, like, I was gutted for our guys to lose out and not get a medal in the men's squad. But the Dutch guys, they're amazing. The Italian guys, well, they probably would have got a medal in Tokyo had one of them not called the biggest boat stopper in the middle of the race. So was quite happy to see them win a medal. Same with the Polish guys. They've been like fourth for ages. So it was
world champions 2 years ago.
Yeah, world champions 2 years ago. It was quite happy to see them win a medal. Because they're your friends. So I think in future, if I was still there, or my recommendations to other people is that, don't fuck anyone off. Yeah. Just turn up and let your own do the talking.
For sure.
If you're going to use fire jets in the video, just make sure you don't get beaten by beans on toast.
Yeah.
That's it. No, so hugely happy with the 8. It was almost like, I think, like you said, there were such favourites going into this race. You kind of expected them to win so much that, like, maybe you didn't. Personally, I didn't get such a big dopamine rush from like them winning, but like I couldn't be happy for like people like Tom Ford as well. Like I've seen him when he first turned up at Leander, like back in 2016, and we also just like hang about and just like chat shit in the crew room. So like, to see how far they've come, like you said, it's just truly amazing.
I tell you what, I did get the buzz from watching them in goal because I've trained with them all so much, and it was just really cool. And seeing how much it means to them all and their families when you're in the stands too. But like James Rudkin, I don't know if there's anyone in the world that loves rowing more than James Rudkin does. He is like, he'll listen to every single one of your podcasts, by the way. He's probably, in fact, it probably is just him on repeat. So I wouldn't be too excited about your listening numbers because it's probably just James Rudkin has it when he's sleeping or something. But he loves it. He loves it so much. He's a proper student of rowing. He knows everything. He watches every video.
We're going to have to get him on.
Yeah, but just block out about a week for it to but he's so passionate, and he was in tears on the podium, and then he was in tears again behind the stands when I saw him later. It was just the coolest thing. And Jacob Dawson, he had like I can't remember, maybe it was something like a pulmonary embolism or something the other year. He's now an Olympic champion. That's mental. These sorts of things.
You want to see it, don't you? You want to see it.
Yeah.
Anyone who's ever dreamt of being there.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't make it, but when you get there, you better enjoy it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so for me, seeing them across the line was like the most awesome thing. And to do it despite the Dutch really taking it to them, and they did. The Dutch were great. Dutch rode a fantastic race in that final. That was wicked. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited to see how many of these guys are going to carry on and like what the future holds for them. But I think they all deserve a bit of rest after like absolutely nailing themselves for the last 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the forever Olympic champions, the last crew that I've got on the list, and it's the lightweight women's double of Imogen and Emily. They won their heat, they won their semi, and surprise, they won the final. I did think they were going to win by clear water, but the field did like really bring it to them.
Yeah.
So you were there in Tokyo when they came fourth.
Wow.
And to see them now do this, what was it like?
Well, in Tokyo, I was in the airport about to fly home. I was watching on a phone in the airport terminal when they came fourth, and we were sure they were going to win a medal. But then that race was just amazing, and the crews were all great. Like, on all our percentage times and stuff, like, we thought they were really good. But you can't control what the rest of the world's doing. And I'm sure each of, like, the Italians, the Dutch, and the French who beat them, they were all probably at home thinking, hey, we're going to win this by miles too, because they were all getting really fast times. So that was just unfortunate and gutting for them to miss out by 100th of a second then, right? But since then, they've not lost a race.
Actually, so they haven't lost since.
And I understand Emily has like a photo of this photo finish somewhere, and I used to live with Emily for a few years. We're really good mates, and she's very diligent. She always has been, and she does things really, really well. Everything she does really well. She's very academic. She's very smart. She's just someone that ticks the boxes. And I think Imogen's the same. I don't know her so well, but I think that once they decided, hey, that was wrong, we're gonna get this right, they were not going to leave any stone unturned. So within that last 3 years, they've just been outstanding. Mm-hmm. But there has been pressure coming. Like in Lucerne, the Kiwis started being pretty good. You're like, oh wow, well, look at them. And then at the Europeans, when Emily was injured and then Olivia was in the boat, Liv Bates was in the boat, that was when the Romanians turned up again. Yeah. Now, one of these girls in Romanians had quit. She was in the Tokyo Olympics, I think, and then she quit and came back maybe last year. Mm-hmm. The stroke girl. No, sorry, the bow girl. The stroke girl's the one that absolutely gives it something. Yeah, the bow girl. She came back this year, and they turned up and were really good at the Europeans. It's like, okay, this could be a bit of a race. And in the heats, they were really, really impressive. They smashed it in their one. I was thinking maybe this is less of a safe bet, our lightweight women's double, and I'm sure they had have felt some doubt and some like, hey, hang on a minute, someone on our patch here that might be quite competitive with us. The way they turned up in their final led it just dominated was brilliant because they were under pressure, and they would have had the demons of the last Olympic final they did, where in the semi-final they got a world record, right? And in Tokyo. So because I remember I was sitting in doping control after my final, watching on the TV their semi-finals. Hey, they got the world record to win the semi-final. They actually got beaten in the following semi-final, the next race, but they turned up to that and then came fourth, having just got the world record. That must have been the most terrible thing.
Yeah.
So with that pressure, those demons, all that, they just turned up.
And the last ever chance as well.
Yeah, exactly. And they were so classy. And you just saw it, the emotion of them on the podium. Like Emily has been through a lot in these last years. And they were just brilliant. Really, really brilliant. And again, like I said about the women's quad, I hope that they're being treated like complete celebrities now because they earned it. They deserved it. And I hope that they are getting the spotlight that their hard work deserves.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If there's anyone that I know has been like training so hard, like Tom's seen Emily train like what?
Yeah. I was at Caversham fixing ergs 7 days after Tokyo, and Emily was there in a single.
Oh, was she?
And I said to Morris, like, what is she doing? Is she not having a break? And he was like, she's having a bit of a break, but she doesn't want too much time off. She gets all locked up, so she's going to keep going. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah. And we spoke to Imogen, obviously, and it's just so impressive. And I think exactly what you said, Imogen really is that same sort of like focus. What's really impressive is that a lot of those other doubles, they were the same combinations as well.
Yeah.
So it's the same crews that they raced 3 years ago and couldn't do, and they've gone on and dominated them now. And I think the other thing we sometimes forget is it doesn't matter how good you are on paper or what you've done previously, you still have to actually go out and do it.
Yeah, you do.
And
that's it for what they would have had to deal with on that finals day. Okay, turn up and be confident, but also nothing that you've done in the last 3 years means anything now. You got to turn up and do it again. And that's one thing that's kind of, whilst doing elite sport, I kind of had to get my head around, because when you watch it on TV and the favourites in most sports normally go and win, it just seems like it's transactional. They turn up and this result happens. Hey, they've got to go and do it. They've got to go. And I think especially when you watch like the 100 meters running, Noah Lyles, he won by whatever, like 100th of a second or something. He was the favourite to win and he won. But if he had taken one step wrong in that race, he wouldn't have won. He had to go there and do it. And the performance is incredible, even though it doesn't always seem it when you see the favourite go and win. The performance of that lightweight women's double in that final was incredible.
Yeah. Sometimes the better it is, the less you realise how insanely impressive it is.
Yeah. Exactly that. And you just think, well, they're expected to win. They won. Yeah. Cool. Tick. But it's not that. They had to get up, sleepless night, probably because of nerves the night before, weigh in, all this stuff, not able to eat their breakfast because they're so nervous. All those things are still there, even when you're the favourite. And probably more so when you're the favourite.
Yeah, when you and you know that this is the last chance in your sport, because literally that category is going away. So if there's anyone that I'm super happy that they're going to be crowned as forever champions, it's definitely those two deserve that title. Capital letters written underneath that. Yeah. I saw a little bit on Instagram. I think it was either Imogen or Emily shared that the morning of the final, they were both kind of like, they didn't know how they were going to feel.
Yeah.
And then they walk out, got ready, regime, whatever, looked at each other and were like, it's on. Everything's good. Like, we just know we're going to have a good one. So.
Oh, they were brilliant. They were so cool.
Yeah, classy.
Epic.
Fingers crossed they maybe might try and make the jump to heavyweight. He asked Imogen that question and she didn't say no.
Yeah, I feel like she's going to try. I don't know if Emily will try. I think she'll be satisfied now. I hope she is.
Hope so. Yeah.
I think Imogen just loves it so much that she'll try.
Well, she said she's not quitting rowing anytime soon. So she said, catch me on this colours head in a few weeks' time.
I see.
So that's it. Yeah. But no, so that's basically the entire roundup for all the crews from the GB that raced at the Olympics. So no, it's just been like such a. I feel like this Olympics has been specifically looked forward to because of like how the team has done in Tokyo, and like to see, obviously there's been lots of like transitional periods compared to this previous games with new, performance director, no David Tannen, no Jürgen as well. Not that we had them in the previous games, but that's like the aftermath of that still. So to then see the team actually go in and produce a performance like that, I mean, couldn't be proud of any more of those guys. And if there's anyone that wants to pick up rowing or try the sport, I mean, can you follow a better example than that?
No, they're fantastic because they did it and they look like they're having fun doing it. And I love that because rowing is really fun. It's so fun. Otherwise we wouldn't all do it. But I don't think we're always the best adverts of how fun it is. I think we always go on about how hard it is and how grueling the training is, or how early we get up, or it's cold. Yeah, it is those things. But actually you look back and that's kind of why it was fun. But in the moment it is also fun. Being out on a boat with your mates is fun. Being in those environments is really fun and it's exciting. And I think as a sport, we could be better at showcasing why it's fun rather than always, oh, it's so hard, or they give up so much stuff, or they sacrifice this or whatever. Like, hey, we choose to do all those things because we like it. Yeah. And I think that's, I think, we could do a better job of trying to encourage more people into the sport by saying this is a really fun social thing to do, rather than, hey, this is really hard. If you want really hard, go and do like CrossFit or something, do come here and do this. It's actually really fun and cool. And the clubs are really nice communities and all of that. The things that I love about rowing now is like all of that.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah, it's from the out. It sounds impressive from the outside. People that sort of struggle to see all the things we do, but actually, it's an easy sacrifice because we love what we do.
Yeah,
all these things are difficult, but actually, it's a sacrifice worth doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of this, I feel like I spend a lot of time like telling everyone, people who are shitting on the performance from Tokyo, just being like, no, listen, just wait and see.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I know is how athletes are how they were gonna bounce back and from like a disappointing or there's nothing that light a fire up your ass like a 4th place at the Olympics. I think.
Well, exactly,
and we've proved it as a country.
Yeah, I think going forward, so what the team, and I mean all the team, not just the athletes, not just the coaches, everyone needs to go, hey, that was good, how can we be better? Though I'm sure there'll be many athletes that don't carry on, many that made it here that might not make it again, who are, there's people get injured, whatever. It won't be the same team in 4 years' time as it was now. I think that the development coaches, or the ones that decide who comes into the squad, need to be really thoughtful about who they're bringing in and why.
They've got a seriously long list of
they
multiple under 23 gold.
They really do, and they need to make sure that they're not just greedy with ergo scores, I don't think, and go, hey, we want these top strongest people, because they've tried that and it doesn't always work. They should get the ones that they should try and work with the clubs a bit better to work out which combinations of people work well. That had some people that rode together at Brooks for a long time, or people like Morgan Boulding and Rory Gibbs have rode together for ages. I always thought when I was in the team, those two need to both be in the 8. Because they've won races in 8s forever. Get people in the right seats for them, rather than just, hey, we rank this bunch of people. I really, 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 really hope that the sculling team is worked on better. And I don't mean, I think they need to get away from this idea that they need to always be stronger. They need to row better, because the thing that you could see, and you can often see when you're watching British boats against the others, you can't see that they're weaker. You can see they're not rowing as well in the sculling. So, and we don't know what scores the other teams pull on their ergs or whatever.
Yeah.
They don't know what we pull. But what you can see is they're rowing in a way that looks a lot smoother and more coherent, or not coherent, cohesive. So I hope that when they look to bring scullers into the team, they don't go, hey, let's find these strong people and try and teach them how to row. Because to be honest, I don't think the British sculling team have had a very successful. The coaches have not been able to do that before. They've taken strong people and made them stronger, but have they really made them row better? I'm not sure about that. Yeah. What they should take is the people that are rowing really well at their clubs and try and make them stronger. They're good at that bit. They're really good at helping people get stronger. And I think that they should involve the sculling coaches from places like Leander, who have coached really, really good sculling coaches, Matt Beachy and Ali Brown, really, really well. Mark Wilkinson of Windsor Boys, who's obviously been doing a great job. Like his junior boys quad did 5:57 at Marlow Regatta. Like 5:57 is fully quad. Like that is insane. Like these coaches obviously know how to move these quads and get these athletes rowing in the right way. And I think British rowing needs to look a little bit further at how they, and Paul Stannard needs to be a bit like open to a few more people coming and getting involved in that, I think, because there's the talent, I think, has been there for them to win an Olympic gold medal in the quad for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Like that in 2014, they almost won the World Championships. That crew of people with Sam Townsend, Charles Cousins, Graham Thomas and Pete Lambert, they, again, they only ever lost to crews that looked like they were rowing better, not crews that were stronger than them. And that's not a fault of the athletes. They were doing everything they could, but I think they need that extra guidance to be rowing better. And then the women's team, like, I think that since their new coach has joined, they've just been so tough. They've looked really good. They've been really strong. I understand their training is very hard. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I've heard it's a lot harder than it used to be. But they're winning. They're doing brilliantly. So to be honest, I'd like to see more of that. And I hope that I just hope that a lot of the team do carry on. I hope that the ones that don't go, hey, this is my time. I'm really happy with what I've achieved. Now let's go and do different things and still enjoy rowing from the outside.
Yeah.
What I don't want to see anyone do anymore is go, oh, I've spent too much time rowing. I'm fed up with rowing. I'm never going to go on an erg again. I'm never going to row again. I think what we need to instill is a culture of this is a hobby for life. And this is something we want to do until we're old, right? Even if you've been at the top of your game, you can still do it at a different level and enjoy it. Like we did at Henley, right? You can, and you know, I'm thinking about doing the pairs head in a double with my dad in Masters C because we've got an average age that works out, right? You can still do that. It doesn't need to be 18 sessions a week or whatever. It can be just splashing around and losing as well.
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying and the suggestions for the future. I think a lot of the processes are going to have to be reevaluated because obviously we're moving away from the 2,000 meter racing to 1,500 meters. So the characteristics that made you faster over that distance aren't necessarily going to be the decisive ones.
Yeah.
For the shorter distance, maybe we'll need an athlete with like a different characteristic.
Yeah.
Or even like a different technique. So all really valid.
That would be interesting. But to be honest, my view, I don't think it'd be that different. I think it'd be a bit different, but I don't think it'll be hugely different. I think the same people win. I don't know. I might
could be interesting.
I also think it's interesting because there's no races planned for 1,500 meters at the moment until between now and then.
FAC have said, they're not changing anything.
No, they won't. And of course they won't, because otherwise if they change something, then IOC will say, fine, it'll always be 1,500 meters. What I think someone should do, and British rowing should really organise this. I've been saying it for years now, since this has been an idea. Someone should host a 1,500 meter regatta for international teams and invite them. It will be independent of FISA, but say, hey, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, USA, whoever, we're going to book Dorney, probably, it's British rowing, so they'll probably choose like Nottingham or something.
The Docks.
Like Dorney is the one really good venue, but I know that it's expensive, but put your hands in your pockets for something good and say, look, each year, or maybe agree with the different countries that each year someone will host this one race that's a 1,500 meter thing that they can all go and prep at. I don't know. Because otherwise I'd be interested to see whether people at the World Cups turn up and just go, hey, we're going to race as hard as we can for 1,500 meters and paddle it in.
Yeah, we spoke about this.
I mean, an interesting thing. Like, do people really go? No one really cares about the overall World Cup series. Like, it's nice if you win it and go, oh yeah, we won the World Cup. But like, often you win the World Cup because you went to all three and everyone else didn't. You know, like, we won the World Cup once. We only won one World Cup race and we won a gold, a silver, and a bronze, but we won because we turned up to all three. You know, it's like, does anyone really care?
Yeah.
But like, you do care about. I don't know.
That's the old meme, isn't it?
Do that would be quite fun.
The old meme is, hey, I won gold at the World Cup. Which World Cup?
Yeah, World Cup one. World Cup one.
So good.
Yeah. I actually didn't win World Cup. I only ever won the World Cup 2.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're right.
That's
Awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. In general, you know, like we're here sort of breaking things down and, like you said, talking about the differences, but I think it was awesome in general. I mean, it's one medal overall, less than 2012.
Yeah.
It's probably I'm pretty sure second highest ever number of medals we've had. Obviously to bounce back from Tokyo is amazing. And I think, look, we've won gold off the top of the medal table, but still second on the medal table, and like you said, like we said this,
and the largest contributor to Team GB's medals as well. Rowing was. So rowing was, if you had a medals table of sports within the British Olympic team, rowing was top.
Amazing.
That's great. Right.
So fantastic. Fucking amazing from everyone. Amazing to watch.
And any criticism I've said in here, by the way, I'm very well aware that everyone's trying their best. Coaches, athletes, support staff, everyone is trying their best. There's, and it's never, I don't think anyone's doing the right thing, trying to do the right thing. Everyone's, of course, trying to do the right thing and just think that maybe we can be doing things better still.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the nature of the sport and who you are as a person and all of us. It was, it's, right, that's good. But what what else can we do? And that's how you get better.
It's all coming from a place of love, really. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Jack,
start saving up to go and watch them in LA now. Which I
think Reggae's going to pay for that one, yeah? Yeah, we'll put that on a business card.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, basically, all of you watching here, you've got to get your Ergo serviced by Rogear, and then Rogear will be able to sponsor us all to go and watch.
Basically. You could also go to buymeacoffee.com/LastRowCounts, so just give us a few quid.
Steve Thrush. We need to give Steve a shout.
Stephen Thrush. Shout out our £20 a month Patreon support. I don't know which span it is. That's what I was thinking about, but really appreciate the support. And we're going to keep upgrading the podcast in the studio and keep getting amazing guests like Jack back on.
Yeah.
But mate, if you don't get too successful, otherwise there'll be a fee.
Jackson, start charging.
Well, they're just getting invoiced.
Yeah, that's true.
If we made some money out of this, I'd happily pass it on. Yeah,
that's the thing. Look, Jack, it's been so awesome to have you on the show again. Like, to be honest, like when we were thinking about doing an Olympics episode, you're the first person that came to mind, because obviously at least maybe personally, I just saw you as sort of like the leader of the group of the British rowers that went to Tokyo, because obviously you got the highest medal and everything, and we've had you on the show before, and like I know how enthusiastic you are about the sport, how much history and the pedigree and the love, and obviously you're racing at Henley and that's being on the commentary team, and it just seemed appropriate to invite you back on, and I think this episode has just turned out awesomely. So I really appreciate all of your thoughts, insights, and knowledge.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I always want to talk about rowing, right? And I'm a massive fan. I loved doing it, and I was a bit interested how would it be to go to Olympics again and be there as a fan, and it was just awesome. It was so cool to be there. I feel very privileged because I achieved everything I wanted and I stopped on my terms, which is great. But I'd encourage anyone to go and try and watch the GB rowing team at any of the races. So next year, I think there are definitely World Cups in Lucerne and Varese. I don't know what the other one's going to be. Both are beautiful venues. Both are really cool places to go and watch rowing. I would think about going to try and take a trip because, and Lucerne is the week before Henley, I think, next year. I'm thinking about going to go and try and watch again in Lucerne because I found a very cheap place to stay. Lucerne Capsules in the centre. It's a little box room thing that you stay in. Basically like a coffin in the centre, 50 quid a night. Wow.
Does the job.
A 15-minute walk from the Rotsey. It's very, very good. I really would. I'd say like go and get behind the team, and especially anyone that goes on Twitter and gobs off about them. Go and watch. Go and put some money, put your hand in your pocket and go and support them. Because they're trying their hardest.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Looking forward to having you back on again on the show at some point, Jack. We're just going to need to find the right time or the topic or a panel that will bring you back on. But yeah. Like once again, thanks so much for today. This concludes everything for this episode. So on that note, easy there.
Cue the music.